Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever caught yourself wondering, is he even thinking about me? Or maybe if he misses me so much, why doesn't he say anything? You're not alone. And the truth is, when a man genuinely misses you, he shows it. Not with long emotional texts or big dramatic gestures, but in the subtle shifts, the quiet moments, the things he probably doesn't even realize he's doing. Hi ladies, welcome. In today's video, we're diving deep into something so many women struggle to decode: the hidden signs a man reveals when he truly misses you. This isn't about games. It's not about trying to manipulate or chase. It's about understanding the way masculine emotion works. Because most men are taught to suppress, not express. But even when he tries to hide it, his behavior will speak volumes. If you've ever felt confused by his silence, if you've sensed something beneath the surface but couldn't quite put your finger on it, this video is your clarity moment. By the end, you'll know exactly what to look for, and more importantly, how to respond with confidence, not confusion. So, grab your coffee, take a breath, and stick with me, because the signs you've been missing might just be the proof he's missing you. Let's get into it. You might be wondering, if he misses me, why doesn't he just say it? And that's a fair question. But here's something that isn't talked about enough. For many men, vulnerability doesn't feel safe. Not because they don't care, but because they've been taught, consciously or unconsciously, that expressing deep emotions is a form of weakness. From a young age, boys are often conditioned to man up, stay strong, and suppress anything that looks like sadness, longing, or emotional need. So by the time they become men, they've internalized a belief. You don't show when you miss someone, you power through it, you act unaffected. But here's the catch. Missing someone is a deeply human experience. It doesn't just go away because it's pushed down. It leaks out. It shows up in their habits, in their energy, in the way they scroll through old photos but don't say anything, or in how they suddenly start popping back into your life after disappearing. Many men would rather show they miss you than tell you. Why? Because action feels safer than vulnerability. Saying I miss you out loud requires a level of emotional exposure that frankly some men just aren't comfortable with, especially if they don't know how you feel in return or if they fear rejection. Some will distract themselves with work, others will stay quiet but keep tabs on you through social media, and some will reach out with casual messages just to feel a connection but still stop short of saying what they really mean. So, if he's being distant, if he's not saying the words you're hoping for, it doesn't always mean he doesn't care. In many cases, it means he doesn't know how to show up emotionally in a way that feels safe to him. And that's exactly why understanding the signs, not just the words, is so important. In the next section, we'll talk about those silent signals he gives off when he misses you, even if he's trying to keep it hidden. So what happens when a man misses you but doesn't text you? This is where most people get confused, because we live in a world where we assume if someone cares, they'll say something. But when a man is emotionally guarded, overwhelmed, or unsure of what he wants, silence can actually be a loud signal. You just have to know what to look for. One of the first things he might do is suddenly appear in your digital space without actually engaging. Maybe he watches your stories on Instagram within minutes of you posting. Maybe he starts liking old photos, or maybe you notice he's online at the same time you are often. These aren't accidents. He's watching you quietly, suddenly, because he wants to feel close to you without having to make the first move. Another silent sign, he finds reasons to pop back into your life indirectly. You might hear from a mutual friend that he asked about you, or he might comment on a random post, send you a meme, or reply to an old story. Not because he's trying to start a conversation, but because he wants to feel your presence again without risking full rejection. He may also start reappearing in places he knows you'll be. That restaurant he never used to go to, now he's showing up. That mutual hangout spot or social event you're attending, suddenly he's there too. It's not coincidence, it's proximity seeking. When a man misses you, he doesn't always reach out with words. Sometimes he just wants to be where you are. And then there are the energy shifts. If you do happen to talk, maybe randomly, maybe after a break, you might notice he's overly curious, asks about your love life, or gets quiet when you mention other people. That emotional tension, that subtle pullback when he realizes you might be moving on, that's not indifference, that's longing covered in pride, even in silence. Men often hold on to objects or rituals that remind them of you. Maybe he keeps photos he hasn't deleted. Maybe he replays old voice notes or keeps wearing the shirt you once complimented him on. These behaviors are emotional anchors, tiny unconscious ways he stays connected to you. Here's the truth most people overlook. When a man misses you but doesn't text, it's not always a sign that he's over it. Sometimes it's the opposite. It's a sign he's battling with how to handle his emotions without losing control. Texting feels too vulnerable, but staying close in the background that feels safer. So don't just watch his words, watch his patterns, watch the silence. Because often the loudest "I miss you" is the one that never gets sent. There's a point in every emotionally confusing situation where you start asking, gee yourself, why isn't he saying anything? And while that's a valid question, sometimes the better one is, what is he showing me? Because when a man misses you, truly deeply misses you, but doesn't have the emotional language or courage to express it, his actions become the only truth you can trust. Think about this. Does he suddenly start showing up when you're pulling away? Does he seem to reach out not when you want him to, but exactly when you've stopped chasing? That timing isn't coincidence. That's emotional instinct. He feels the shift. He notices the silence, and without saying a word, his behavior shifts. That's his way of pulling you back in without having to say, I don't want to lose you. Another powerful indicator is effort. And not always the grand romantic kind. Sometimes it's subtle. He offers to help you with something. He asks how you're doing in a way that seems deeper than usual. He remembers a small detail you mentioned weeks ago. Men don't always say what they feel, but when they care, they pay attention. And here's something most people miss. When a man misses you, he might try to make himself useful. This is especially true for men who aren't verbally expressive. Acts of service become his love language. He might offer to fix something, help with a problem, or just check in. It's not random. It's an attempt to reconnect without having to expose emotional vulnerability. Also, notice his emotional reactions to your independence. If you start posting more, glowing more, living your life confidently, and he starts acting unpredictable, hot and cold, or reappears suddenly, that's not confusion, that's conflict. He sees you pulling away, and even though he may not say it, his behavior becomes his protest. He might not say he misses you, but he'll keep a photo of you saved. He won't bring up your name, but he'll go quiet when someone else does. He won't start deep conversations, but he'll linger a little longer than usual when he gets the chance to talk. These small acts, that's where his heart is showing, even when his mouth stays shut. Words can be faked. Text can be delayed or crafted to say the right thing, but behavior, that's instinctual, that's unconscious, that's the raw, unfiltered version of how someone really feels. So, when a man's actions speak louder than his words, listen closely. He's telling you everything without saying a single thing. When a man is thinking about you constantly, he might not come out and say it, but his behavior will shift in one major, unmistakable way. The number one thing he does, he finds reasons to connect with you, even when there's no real reason at all. It could be the most random message. Hey, remember that coffee shop we went to? Or this meme reminded me of you. Maybe it's a song, a dream he had, a place he passed by, anything that gives him an excuse to reach out. To someone else, it might seem meaningless, but to him, it's a safe way to feel close to you without making himself vulnerable. And here's what's really happening underneath that message. He's thinking about you more than he wants to admit. You're occupying his mental space. You pop into his thoughts when he's driving, working, or just sitting in silence. And those small random messages, they're little escape routes, his way of scratching the itch without fully diving into emotional exposure. This kind of behavior is incredibly common, especially when he's unsure about where you stand. He doesn't want to come off as needy. He doesn't want to say, I've been thinking about you all day and I miss your energy. So instead, he sends you something casual, light, but intentional. Here's another version of this pattern. He'll check in on things he normally wouldn't care about. Maybe he asks about your job, your weekend plans, or even how your dog is doing. And he's not doing it because he's just being friendly. He's trying to keep the emotional thread between you two from snapping. He's mentally invested. And he's hoping you'll match that energy without him needing to say too much. Sometimes this also shows up in a delayed reaction. You haven't spoken in a while, and then out of the blue, he texts late at night or sends a voice note or likes a photo from 2 months ago. He's trying to reconnect, but more importantly, he's revealing where his attention has been on you. Men who think about you constantly often try to stay in your orbit. They won't always come forward with big emotional confessions, but they'll create patterns of presence, a comment here, a view there, a reaction, a coincidental bump into your life. So if you're seeing these little gestures, those just thinking of you moments disguised as casual conversation, don't dismiss them. That's him waving a quiet emotional flag. That's his mind trying to stay emotionally close, even if he's not ready to go out. When he's thinking about you constantly, it shows, and this kind of quiet connection, it often says more than the words ever could. When a man misses you, you don't always need words to know because his body will say it for him. You see, body language is one of the most honest forms of communication. Unlike words, it's not filtered, edited, or overthought. It's unconscious, instinctual, and when someone is emotionally pulled toward you, their physical presence starts revealing things their mouth won't. One of the biggest giveaways is eye contact, or more often, the struggle to maintain it. If a man misses you and suddenly finds himself in front of you again, you might notice him looking at you just a little longer than usual, or glancing at you when he thinks you're not paying attention. Why? Because he's craving that connection. He wants to see you, to study you, but sometimes doesn't want to make it obvious, that push and pull. It's a clear emotional tell. Another subtle cue is his posture. When a man is emotionally distant, his body tends to mirror that crossed arms, leaning away, distracted. But when he misses you and is emotionally drawn in, he'll lean forward. His shoulders will be turned toward you. His feet, even subconsciously, will point in your direction. It's as if his entire body is trying to be closer, even when he's saying very little. You might also notice nervous movements. Fidgeting with his hands, rubbing the back of his neck, adjusting his clothes, checking his phone without really looking at it. These are all signs of emotional tension. It's not that he's uninterested. Quite the opposite. He's trying to play it cool while internally feeling more than he's letting on. Then there's mirroring, a psychological reflex where someone subconsciously mimics your gestures, tone, or pace. If you take a sip of your drink and he does the same right after, or if you lean in and he leans too, that's not coincidence. That's a subtle primal way of building closeness. When a man misses you, he craves connection. And mirroring is how his body tries to re-establish it without words. Pay attention to the energy shift. When you walk into a room, does he straighten up, smile slightly, go quiet, or seem caught off guard? All of that is body language responding to emotional tension. You don't do that for someone you're indifferent toward. You do that for someone who still matters. And finally, the most undeniable clue, lingering presence. If he stays just a little longer than necessary, stands nearby even when he doesn't need to, or finds ways to remain close physically, that's his body telling you, I'm not ready to let go of this yet. Words can be careful, but the body never lies. If you want to know if he misses you, watch how he acts when he doesn't think you're watching. That's where the truth lives. In today's world, social media is more than just a place to scroll. It's a window into someone's emotional world. And when a man misses you but isn't reaching out directly, his behavior online often becomes the loudest clue. You make, HT notice that he starts watching your stories consistently, sometimes within minutes of you posting. He doesn't like the photo, doesn't comment, doesn't DM, but he's watching. Why? Because it gives him a way to feel close to you without breaking the silence. It's passive connection, no risk, no exposure. But for him, it scratches the emotional itch of seeing you, hearing your voice, or catching a glimpse of your life. Another red flag, or in this case a red heart, is when he starts liking old posts or suddenly becomes active on your profile after being quiet for a while. It's not random. That like, that comment, that reaction, it's his way of re-entering your world without the pressure of a full conversation. It's low effort, low risk, but emotionally loaded. Then there's the classic move, posting to be seen. He might share things that feel out of character. A selfie, a moody quote, a song lyric, or even a throwback. It's not always about showing off. Often it's meant for one person to see you. It's indirect communication, a way of saying, I'm here, are you still looking? Some men even use their silence on social media as a message. He suddenly stops posting, or he blocks and unblocks you, or switches between public and private, all in subtle attempts to get a reaction. He's trying to gauge your attention without ever needing to ask for it. So while it's tempting to brush off these little online moments, don't. They often reveal the exact emotional conflict he's hiding, one where he misses you but doesn't know how to say it. And in that silent space, his digital footprint tells the real story. Let's pause for a moment and ask a hard but necessary question. Is he even emotionally available to miss you in a real meaningful way? Because here's the truth. Just because someone feels something for you doesn't always mean they're ready for a relationship. Missing you, thinking about you, even caring deeply about you, none of that guarantees he's emotionally available to show up, stay consistent, or meet you where you are. So how do you know? One of the clearest signs is how he handles emotional discomfort. When things get vulnerable, does he lean in or disappear? If he pulls away the moment things get serious, shuts down during conflict, or avoids conversations that matter, that's not just him being busy. That's emotional avoidance. And people who avoid their own feelings often can't hold space for yours. Another clue. He keeps things just vague enough to give you hope, but never clear enough to give you security. You're stuck in emotional limbo. He says things like, I care about you, or I'm not ready right now. And it keeps you wondering, waiting, hoping. Meanwhile, nothing actually moves forward. That is emotional unavailability masked as potential. Then there's the inconsistency. Texting you when he's lonely, pulling back when you get close, reappearing only when he senses you moving on. That hot and cold energy isn't a sign of deep connection. It's a sign of someone who doesn't know how to manage emotional closeness, or worse, someone who only values you when you're slipping out of reach. But here's where it gets complicated. Emotionally unavailable men can still miss you. They can still want you. They can still feel something real. But feeling isn't the same as being ready. And unless a man is willing to grow, communicate, and meet you emotionally, he can't offer anything sustainable, no matter how often he thinks about you. So ask yourself, when he comes back, is it from a place of clarity or confusion? Does he take responsibility for his emotional absence, or does he pretend like nothing happened? Is he consistent, or are you constantly guessing? Because love that keeps you guessing isn't love you can build on. The reality is some men miss you, but still aren't capable of being with you. And if you ignore the signs of emotional unavailability, you end up mistaking longing for or readiness. But those two things are not the same. So don't just ask if he misses you. Ask if he's emotionally safe to love, because the goal isn't to be missed. The goal is to be met fully, honestly, and consistently. So now that you've seen the signs, the subtle messages, the body language, the late night texts, the quiet social media hints, the question becomes, what do you do with all of this? Because here's where many people get stuck. You recognize he misses you, you feel it, you see it, but does that mean you should reach out? Should you wait? Should you open the door again or close it for good? The answer isn't one size fits all, but it is rooted in one thing, your emotional clarity. First, take a breath and ask yourself this. Is he missing me because he truly values me, or because he's feeling lonely, bored, or insecure now that I'm gone? This distinction matters. Missing someone doesn't always mean they're ready to show up differently. Sometimes it's just emotional discomfort, not real commitment. So before you act, observe. If he reaches out, does he come with vulnerability and clarity? Or is it just vague check-ins, safe messages, or breadcrumbing behavior that keeps you emotionally hooked but still confused? If it's the latter, you don't owe him your energy. Presence doesn't equal consistency, and you deserve more than momentary attention. Second, don't chase clarity from him. Create it within yourself. Instead of wondering where he stands, ask where you do. Are you emotionally available? Are you in a place where you're willing to take him back without resentment? Or are you secretly hoping he'll say the right thing so you can feel validated? This is your power. You get to decide what comes next. If you want to respond, do it from a place of strength, not scarcity. You don't need to rush, and you certainly don't need to play games. If you do respond, mirror his energy with boundaries. Be open, but don't abandon yourself. And if you choose not to respond, that's powerful too. Silence can be your closure. Letting someone miss you without access to you can be the wake-up call they need, or the space you need to move on for good. Here's the truth. It's easy to be drawn back in when someone shows signs of missing you, but attraction isn't the same as alignment. Longing isn't the same as love, and temporary feelings are no substitute for lasting effort. So when you notice these signs, don't just ask what he wants. Ask what you need, honor your growth, protect your peace, and remember, you don't need to prove your worth by responding to someone who couldn't recognize it the first time. Let him miss you. Let him feel it, and if he's really ready, he'll show up, not with breadcrumbs, but with consistency, clarity, and care. You've made it to the end of this video, and by now you're probably seeing things more clearly than ever before. You've recognized the signs, the subtle behaviors, the quiet I miss you moments, the unspoken energy he sends your way when he thinks no one is watching. And maybe for the first time it's all making sense. His silence wasn't emptiness, it was uncertainty. His distance wasn't always disinterest, sometimes it was fear. But now comes the most important part. What do you do with this understanding? Here's the truth. When a man misses you, that's his experience. His longing doesn't automatically mean you need to reopen the door. Missing you is not the same as being ready for you. So the question isn't, how do I get him to come back? The real question is, do I even want him back if he still can't meet me emotionally where I stand? Responding with confidence doesn't mean chasing, fixing, or proving your worth. It means holding your standard. It means being able to feel his absence, notice his energy, and still choose yourself first. So if he does reach out, don't rush in. Take your time, read the tone, not just the words. Is he showing up with emotional clarity, or is it just another attempt to fill a temporary void? Ask yourself, does this feel safe, secure, aligned? And if it doesn't, you don't need to reply. You don't need to explain your silence. You don't need to perform emotional labor for someone who couldn't communicate when it mattered. Your peace doesn't require a back and forth. Confidence is knowing your value even when someone else took too long to realize it. It's also okay to miss him. You're human. You had memories, connection, emotion, and none of that disappears overnight. But missing someone isn't a reason to reopen a cycle that's only left you confused or unfulfilled. Sometimes the most powerful response is no response. And sometimes the most mature thing you can do is say, I care about you, but I've outgrown the version of me that accepted confusion in place of love. Let him miss you. Let the silence echo. Let him do the inner work that you've already started doing. And if one day he comes back, not with mixed signals, but with real consistency, clarity, and accountability, you'll know what to do. Until then, walk in your worth, speak your truth, and never forget the right man won't leave you wondering if he misses you. He'll make sure you never have to